My name is Berlin, and I want to tell you about the day my career quietly ended before I even knew it was happening. I had been at the company for 4 years, 4 solid years. Good performance reviews, a promotion, a reputation as someone leadership could count on. I showed up early, stayed late, delivered results. I genuinely believed I was on the right track. Then one afternoon, after a restructuring announcement that I did not agree with, I vented to a coworker in the break room. Nothing extreme, just frustration. I said my manager didn't know what she was doing. I said the new structure was going to tank the department. I said HR was basically useless. It felt good to get it off my chest. I walked back to my desk and thought nothing of it. 2 weeks later, I was on a performance improvement plan. 6 weeks after that, I was gone. Not because of my work, because of my words. And here is the part that still keeps me up sometimes. I never saw it coming. I had no idea. And if you are sitting there thinking that sounds extreme, I need you to stay with me, because what happened to me is happening every single day in offices, remote Slack channels, and conference rooms all across this country. And the scariest part is, you might already be making some of the same moves I made. Here is what nobody told me when I got hired. HR is not your friend. I know that sounds harsh, so let me be precise. HR professionals are not your enemy either. Many of them are genuinely decent people just doing their jobs. But their job at its core is to protect the company, not you. When you walk into HR to vent, you are not talking to a therapist. You are talking to a risk management function. And every single thing you say, and a lot of what you do, can and will be documented. A 2022 survey by the Society for Human Resource Management found that nearly 60% of HR professionals said they had flagged employees for behavioral concerns before those employees ever knew there was a problem. 60%. That means the file on you could already exist and you would have absolutely no idea. I had no idea. But looking back, I can now identify every single mistake I made and the ones I watched colleagues make after me. So here is what I want to do. I am going to walk you through 9 specific career mistakes that HR quietly tracks, that managers silently note, and that can derail an otherwise great career without a single direct conversation. For each one, I will give you the real scenario, tell you why it damages your standing, and hand you a smarter, more strategic move. This is not about being fake or corporate. This is about being smart in a way I wish someone had taught me before it was too late. The first mistake I made regularly and never thought twice about was complaining without a solution attached. I was the guy in every meeting who could spot a problem before anyone else in the room. I thought that made me valuable. What I did not realize was that when you bring a problem without even the beginning of a fix, you are quietly being catalogued as a low-value communicator. Leadership tracks who creates noise and who creates solutions. A study published in the Harvard Business Review found that employees who frame concerns as problems to solve rather than complaints to air were rated significantly higher in leadership potential by their managers. I was doing the opposite every single week. The move is simple. Before you bring the problem, spend 5 minutes thinking about one possible path forward. You do not need the whole answer. Just say, I noticed this issue and I had one thought on how we might address it, wanted to run it by you. That one sentence changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. The second thing I did that damaged me was being inconsistent with deadlines. And I want to be precise here because that word inconsistent is everything. One missed deadline with a heads up and a new commitment that is human. But constantly delivering, sometimes late, sometimes on time, sometimes early, with no pattern, that is a trust killer. HR and management do not just track whether you missed a deadline. They track whether you can be predicted. Reliability is currency at work. When you are unpredictable, you get quietly moved off high-visibility projects. You stop getting looped in on things that matter. And it happens so gradually you do not even notice until you look up and wonder why you are suddenly not in the room anymore. I lived that. The fix is to underpromise and overdeliver every single time. If you think something takes a week, tell them 10 days. Then come in early. That reputation compounds faster than you think. The third mistake is one I see people make constantly and never recognize as dangerous. Using email to vent, argue, or settle scores. Email is a paper trail. Full stop. Every time you fire off a reply with even a hint of defensiveness, condescension, or frustration, you are handing someone a printed receipt of your worst moment. HR specifically pulls email records in any formal investigation, and even informal ones. People have been let go based on emails that were never meant to escalate that far. I sent emails I thought were just straightforward. Looking back, they read as combative. The move is to pick up the phone or request a quick call when things get tense. Resolve it verbally where possible, then if you need to confirm, send a clean, factual follow-up. Just wanted to confirm we aligned on this point. That is professional documentation working for you instead of against you. Now we are at number 4, and I need you to stop whatever else you are doing right now and lock in, because this is the one that got me. This is the mistake I made that put the nail in the coffin of my time at that company. And most people never see it coming because it feels so completely reasonable in the moment. I went to HR to vent about my manager. I know. It sounds like exactly what HR is there for. They have open-door policies. They talk about psychological safety and trust and being a resource for employees. I believed all of it. I had a genuinely difficult experience with my manager, real exclusion, real favoritism, real issues, and I walked into that HR office and I told them everything. I told them how she made me feel. I told them about the meetings I was left out of. I told them I felt targeted. I was emotional and I was honest, and I thought that counted for something. What I did not know is that when you sit across from an HR business partner and start unloading about your manager's leadership style, what you think is a private conversation is actually an entry in a system. And 9 times out of 10, that conversation gets back to your manager. Because HR's job is not to resolve your feelings. Their job is to assess risk to the organization. And when I walked in emotional and unfiltered, I became the risk. Within a month, my manager had started building a paper trail on me. Because now she knew I was a problem. I handed her that information myself. The strategic move, the one I wish I had known, is to only bring documented, factual, specific concerns to HR. Not feelings, facts. Not she always makes me feel dismissed. Instead say, on 3 occasions I was excluded from meetings I was previously included in, specifically on these dates, and I have the calendar records. Use facts, not feelings. That is the difference between being taken seriously and being quietly managed out. I learned that the hard way. The 5th mistake I made was oversharing my personal life with leadership. My manager and I had a warm relationship. It felt casual, friendly. And over time I started sharing more my financial stress after buying a house, some tension in my personal life, health stuff I was dealing with. I thought it made me relatable. What it actually did was shift how she assessed my capacity. Managers are human. When they are carrying a lot outside of work, they start often unconsciously questioning whether you can handle more responsibility, whether you are stable enough for the next opportunity. I started getting passed over for stretch projects around the same time I started opening up. I do not think it was malicious. I think it was human nature. Keep personal things personal unless there is a direct practical reason to share, like a medical accommodation or a family situation directly affecting your schedule. Bring your full energy to your work. Bring only what is necessary to your manager. The 6th thing I got completely wrong was not documenting my own accomplishments. I assumed that doing good work was enough, that people would notice, that my track record would speak for itself. But here is the reality: HR does not track your wins the way they track your missteps. That is just the system. You have to be your own press secretary. I never kept a record of what I delivered, what impact it had, who saw it. So when review season came, I was relying entirely on my manager's memory and goodwill. And by the time things had turned sour between us, her memory of my contributions had conveniently faded. Keep a running document. Update it every week. Note what you did, the result it produced, and who witnessed it. According to LinkedIn's Workforce Confidence Survey, employees who actively advocated for themselves with documented evidence were 40% more likely to receive a promotion in a given review cycle. Document everything, not obsessively, strategically. Number 7 is something I watched happen to a close friend of mine who worked in the same industry. She left a job she was miserable in, and she made sure everyone knew exactly how miserable she had been on her way out. Long exit interview, candid feedback that crossed the line into personal attacks on her manager, a goodbye message that read between the lines pretty clearly. She felt liberated. 6 months later, she applied for a role at a company where 2 people from her old team had already landed. She did not get past the first round. How you exit a role matters enormously. HR notes it. They track rehire eligibility, reference language, and cultural fit signals. Your industry is always smaller than you think. Give your full notice. Be gracious. Leave nothing messy behind. Number 8 is a mistake I made personally when I finally worked up the courage to ask for a raise. I walked in with a feeling. I felt like I deserved more. I felt like I had been underpaid relative to my contributions. Feeling is not a strategy. I had no market research, no specific number, no understanding of where the company was in its budget cycle. My manager smiled, said she would look into it, and nothing ever happened. Going into a compensation conversation without preparation is leaving money on the table and sometimes creating an awkward note in your file about awareness and professionalism. Know your ask before you open your mouth. Research market rates. Come in with a specific number tied to specific evidence. That is not aggressive. That is professional. And number 9, the last one, and one I wish someone had shaken me by the shoulders about, is assuming that silence means everything is fine. When my manager went quiet, when the feedback dried up, when I stopped getting the casual check-ins, I read it as things settling down. Things were not settling down. The decisions had already been made. I just was not in the room for them. The absence of feedback is not the presence of security. Proactively ask for feedback quarterly, not just at review time. Check in. Stay visible. Silence at work is rarely neutral, and by the time you realize it was not, it is often already too late. So here is what it all comes down to. 4 rules I carry with me now into every job, every conversation, every workplace relationship. Use facts, not feelings, in every formal conversation with HR or leadership. Feelings are valid, but they do not protect you. Documentation does. Be consistent and predictable. In a workplace, reliability is worth more than brilliance. Be the person people can count on to do exactly what they said they would do. Document your wins the same way the system documents your mistakes, because you are your own best advocate, but only if you can prove what you have done. And protect your words. In email, in break rooms, in Slack, in hallways. Your words are always on the record somewhere, even when no one appears to be taking notes. I learned all of this the wrong way. You do not have to. If this hit home for you, drop in the comments which one of these you have made yourself or watched play out at work. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to know your story. If you know someone who needs to hear this, a friend starting a new job, a colleague going through a rough patch with their manager, please share this with them. It might be the thing that saves their career the way knowing this information might have saved mine. And if you are not subscribed yet, do it now, because we put out real strategic career content every single week. No fluff, no cliches, just the stuff no one teaches you until it is too late. I will see you in the next one.